Hey! Enrique, Daniel here. What does this location and this date have in common? Well, on this date, in a location just like this, the ceiling collapsed, crushing a car. Now, this was a terrible accident that no one could have seen coming. Or could they have?
You see, one of the methods of affixing a bolt in concrete is first drilling a hole and gluing the bolt in place. Now, this method's not as strong as some of the other methods, like precasting them, but it still works. It's used all the time. You just need to make sure that the bolts are installed properly, which they didn't. And you also need to make sure you use the right type of epoxy. A powerful epoxy like PowerFast standard set epoxy sold by Powers Fasteners, which they didn't. PowerFast epoxy came in two flavors: standard set, which was rated for sustained loads, and fast set, the one which was used, which was only rated for temporary loads. In 2006, 24,000 pounds of concrete panels fell from the ceiling, crushing a car and killing a motorist. In the case of Massachusetts v. Powers Fasteners Incorporated, the state contends that Powers' 1997 design manual did not distinguish the load capacities between the standard set and the fast set epoxies, had reason to believe that fast set was used in the tunnel, and failed to raise concerns when project officials noted displacement in the ceiling in 1999. The state indicted Powers Fasteners on one count of criminal involuntary manslaughter, citing dangerous misrepresentation and wanton behavior. This was a very complicated case with more than 15 parties and unclear actions on all sides. For example, the builders cut many corners when constructing the ceiling, and Powers claimed that they informed many officials of the limitations of fast set epoxy, even that they tried to conduct testing in 1999 but were denied. This may have been one of those cases where the small legal team gets bullied by the large corporations, as Powers Fasteners, a small family-owned business, agreed to pay north of $24 million in settlement fees over just $1,300 worth of supplied epoxy. North. This case didn't happen north, it happened south in the United States. But what if it did happen here in Ontario? Powers Fasteners' biggest mistake was omitting the information on load capabilities of their epoxy in the design manual. Had they stated that fast set epoxy was not suitable for sustained loads, it is unlikely that this disaster would have happened. Because this information was in fact omitted, it left room for uncertainty in the use of their product, opening them up for trial on charges of misrepresentation. Powers Fasteners showed efforts to notify the appropriate officials of the limitations on fast set epoxy, which indicates that this was not a case of fraudulent misrepresentation, though they may have been exposed to convictions for negligent misrepresentation or innocent misrepresentation. For Powers Fasteners, many of their ethical breaches are overshadowed by more serious professional misconduct violations. If Powers Fasteners knew that fast set epoxy was purchased to be used to anchor ceiling tiles, it would have been their duty to prevent that from happening. Knowingly allowing their products to be used incorrectly is a violation of 72A, B, C, and G of the Professional Engineering Act and violates sections 77.1, 1, 2, 3, and 77.2, 1 of the Code of Ethics, due to the fact that it puts the public in danger. They would have had several alternative actions in this case, like notifying project managers that the wrong glue was being used, and if that didn't change any action, they could have informed PEO. These actions would have cleared them of Code of Ethics violations and professional misconduct violations by placing public safety as their priority. What about the family of the victim? What should they do? The family suffered major damages as a result of Powers and to a greater extent modern Continental Construction Company's negligence. These damages include loss of a loved one and all related costs of trauma and personal injury. These types of damages are known as hedonic damages and occur when the plaintiff seeks damages for loss of enjoyment of life. In the case of the Del Valle family, they were awarded $28 million in damages from 15 companies involved in the disaster. They were owed a duty of care as members of the public on a public road, and that debt of care may extend to all the parties involved in the construction of the tunnel, not just the builders themselves, especially when the element of danger is involved, as can be seen from Winnipeg Condos v. Bird Engineering. It would be up to the courts to prove that the damages were incurred as a result of the negligence of the implicated companies, which would be easy considering that the concrete would not have fallen had it been constructed properly. And as always, thanks for watching.